Which is better for you, the new Umidigi A5 Pro or the Umidigi A3 Pro? In this video, we're going to be talking about that. Follow me on Instagram at KevinBreezeTV. Please join the Kevin Breeze Tech community on Facebook to chat about budget smartphones, ask questions, and help others. Hi everyone, this is Kevin here, coming at you with my comparison between the Umidigi A5 Pro and the Umidigi A3 Pro. The Umidigi A5 Pro is very new to the market. It just came out. I actually just got this about a week ago, and so far it's been a major hit. On the launch date, Umidigi actually sold 10,000 A5 Pros. That was over at AliExpress, and since then, the device has made its way over to Amazon. In fact, right now, it's actually sold out on Amazon. So if you're thinking of buying this on Amazon, then you might want to act quick, because I know that oftentimes, Umidigi will restock their supply over at Amazon, and then it'll run out of stock, and then you have to wait for another 2 or 3 weeks until it's in stock again. So definitely take a look at the link in the video description, check and see if the A5 Pro is indeed in stock, and if it is, then you might want to jump on it. Now the Umidigi A3 Pro has been out for almost a year now, so it's definitely a bit older, but I figured this would be a very good comparison considering that one, the devices have a very similar name, so technically, you could argue that the A5 Pro is the successor to the A3 Pro. There is no A4 Pro, by the way, and you've probably noticed already that there are quite a few innovations with the A5 Pro over the A3 Pro. Now, as far as pricing goes, currently, the A5 Pro is available for $99. However, I've heard that very soon the price will be going up because that's an introductory price for the device. So I believe it's going to be available for $119.99 after the price is increased, but I don't know for sure. Definitely take a look at the link in the video description to see the current pricing for the A5 Pro. And the Umidigi A3 Pro is currently available at Amazon as well and is being offered for $99, but you do get a $10 off coupon. I'm not sure if that coupon is going to be available forever or if that's a temporary thing. So again, if you're thinking of getting this phone, you might want to take advantage of that deal if it's still available. But I'm going to assume that it probably is a permanent deal with that $10 off because I can't imagine that they're going to continue selling this phone for $99.99. If anything, I bet that there's going to be even more of a discount moving forward. So at the moment, the retail prices for both of these phones are exactly the same at $99. But of course, this is $10 cheaper with that coupon. And then possibly if the price of the A5 Pro goes up by 20 bucks, then there's going to be a $30 difference between the price of these two devices. So you'll definitely have to decide which of these two phones best fits your budget, but they still are pretty similarly priced. Now both devices are available GSM unlocked, which means that they're going to work really well with any GSM carrier, especially in the US. So these phones are going to work with AT&T and T-Mobile, as well as Cricket and Metro by T-Mobile. They'll also work really well with Straight Talk, so if you're a big Straight Talk fan, then you're going to be in luck with these devices. Now if you use Sprint or Verizon or Boost Mobile, then you might run into some issues, especially with Sprint actually. They're not going to work at all with Sprint. But with Verizon, you might be able to get some of the bands to work, but you might not be able to get the full Verizon experience with these devices. But again, if you're an AT&T or T-Mobile user, then you're going to have a great experience with either of these two devices. And what's really nice about them being factory unlocked is that you can easily jump from carrier to carrier and you're not tied to any specific carrier. Now there's some major differences with the displays of these two phones. The first thing is that with the Umidigi A5 Pro, you're getting a larger display at 6.3 inches versus a 5.7 inch display with the A3 Pro. The Umidigi A5 Pro also has a 1080p display versus a 720p display with the A3 Pro. Another big difference is on the top. So on the A5 Pro, we have a very small teardrop notch design, but on the A3 Pro, we have a very thick and wide notch, which takes up quite a bit of space. So I definitely prefer the teardrop notch design personally because you have a lot more space for your notification icons and your battery icon and all of those other icons that normally are on the top of the phone. You can see that there's not a whole lot of space to the left and right of the notch here on the A3 Pro, despite there not even being any notifications at all. Another difference is on the bottom of the two phones. So you can see that on the A3 Pro, there's definitely a much larger chin than on the A5 Pro. Overall, the A5 Pro has a really good screen to body ratio, And that's not quite the case with the Umidigi A3 Pro. But definitely having a 1080p display with the A5 Pro makes a big difference compared to the A3 Pro. However, both devices do have good looking displays. They're both very bright and clear. And in some ways, it's tough to tell that the display on the A5 Pro is a higher resolution than the one on the A3 Pro. But there's no getting past how much larger the display is on the A5 Pro. You can see that when I line up the bottoms of the displays on both devices, you do get quite a bit more screen real estate with the Umidigi A5 Pro. Now the A5 Pro features a 19.5:9 aspect ratio display, with the A3 Pro having a 19:9 aspect ratio display, so a bit of a difference there. Now also up top, we do have front-facing cameras in both phones. The Umidigi A5 Pro has a 16 megapixel front-facing camera, and on the A3 Pro we have an 8 megapixel front-facing camera. Both devices feature 32 gigabytes of storage with the ability to expand that with a micro SD card. Neither of these two phones have wireless charging, but they both do have fingerprint sensors on the back and both work really well. We'll try that out starting with the A5 Pro. So that was really quick. And then on the A3 Pro, that was really quick too. So both phones have really good fingerprint sensors. Also, while we're taking a look at the back sides of these two devices, we have some pretty interesting colors on both phones. Now this color on the Umidigi A5 Pro is the crystal blue color, so a really cool color. It actually looks different based on the angle that you're viewing the device. Now if this is too flashy for you, you can go with black as well. And the Umidigi A3 Pro features gold, and this is gold right here, and you can also get it in black. But I definitely like the color here on the Umidigi A5 Pro over the A3 Pro. Also on the back side of these two devices are the camera modules, and there's some major differences here. So on the A5 Pro, we have a 3-camera design with a main 16 megapixel camera, a 5 megapixel depth sensing camera for the bokeh mode, and a 5 megapixel wide angle camera. And on the A3 Pro, we just have a dual camera setup with a 12 megapixel main camera and a 5 megapixel bokeh mode camera. So there is no wide angle mode on the A3 Pro, which is a feature that is growing more and more in popularity. I'm actually shocked that the A5 Pro even has a wide angle camera considering how cheap this device is, but that's really great to see. So you are getting bokeh mode though with both phones, which is really good. Bokeh mode, for those of you that are not aware, is very similar to Apple's portrait mode that they have on their phones. Essentially, you're getting a blurred background, so a really great effect and something that's nice to have on a budget smartphone. The A5 Pro features 4 gigabytes of RAM, and the A3 Pro features 3 gigabytes of RAM. Now, I can definitely notice performance-wise that there's much better performance with the A5 Pro, and that might be due to having an extra gigabyte of RAM. But I think the real thing that really separates these two phones performance-wise is the processor inside. So on the Umidigi A5 Pro, we have the MediaTek Helio P23 processor, and it really does fly. Of course, it's not as high-end as it could be because there are other Umidigi phones that have better Helio processors, such as the Umidigi F1 Play and Umidigi S3 Pro, but still, the Helio P23 is a very solid processor, and it definitely will get the job done, and performance has been silky smooth in this phone. Of course, having that really nicely optimized software that is stock Android is definitely a big part of that good performance, but having that good processor with this phone is definitely a game changer. Now with the A3 Pro, I'm not as enthusiastic about the performance. It definitely does perform decently well, and it will get the job done for most people out there. But the performance between the A5 Pro and A3 Pro is day and night, seriously. This phone has the MediaTek MT6739 processor, which is an older processor from MediaTek. It's found on other budget devices such as the Blue Vivo Go, and overall I don't like the processor that much. Now you can see here, scrolling smooth, pulling up the camera is pretty quick as well. So there's definitely some positives with this processor, but it's definitely not as good as the Helio P23 that's found on the A5 Pro. Now we'll be doing a speed test comparison in a little bit here, so that will really put the processors of these two phones to the test. Now video recording on both devices maxes out at 1080p at 30 frames per second, no problem with that. Definitely look at my full video reviews for both of these devices to get an idea of what the video recording quality is like. Now with the A5 Pro we're getting a 4150 mAh internal battery, and with the A3 Pro we're getting a 3300 mAh internal battery. So we're getting a bit more battery capacity with the A5 Pro, and you are overall going to get better battery life with the phone too. So that really is a massive battery though to have with the A5 Pro, considering its very budget price tag. Now with the software, there are some major differences with these two phones. Now the Umidigi A5 Pro features Android 9 Pie, which is the current version of Android. Of course, we do have Q coming up right around the corner, and I don't know if this will be updated to Q or not. Now, the A3 Pro is on Android 8.1 Oreo, and there's no sign of it ever being updated to a newer version of Android. It looks like software support is pretty much done with the A3 Pro, unless there's somehow some really desperate need for some sort of security patch. But otherwise, this will never get Android 9 Pie. And that is one of the compromises that comes along with buying these budget, dirt cheap phones. Of course, you're getting a lot here for the money, but what you won't be getting are software updates in the long term. If software updates are really important to you, then you might want to go with the Google Pixel line of phones, but of course, those are a lot more expensive than these. Of course, it would be great to see these get updated to the next version of Android and then the version after that. But the reality is that the software development team over at Umidigi can only do so much, and it's not like they're going to hire more and more people as they create more and more different devices. If you think about it, every new device they launch requires more and more attention from the dev team. Updating their phones to newer version of Android isn't as simple as just hitting a button and making it happen. They literally have to spend hundreds of hours and lots of money paying these people to write the code and optimize the software for the phones. So the truth is that if you want to continue to get these phones at very good low prices, then you're going to have to put up with them being pretty much stuck at the version of Android that they launch with. Now the good news is that Umidigi is going to make sure that the version of Android that these phones have is well optimized, and they are willing to make updates to perfect that software. We've already seen that with the A5 Pro. I've already gotten an update since getting this phone, which has resulted in some major camera improvements and other performance improvements. And I'm pretty sure that moving forward, we will see a few more updates, just making this an even better device. But as soon as the dev team is confident that they've optimized Android 9 Pie as well as possible to give you the best camera performance and software experience, then they're pretty much going to move on to the next devices from Umidigi. They're not going to linger around and keep this updated. So my point is that they will make sure that there are proper security updates implemented with the phone, but you're definitely not going to see Android Q with this or any other future version of Android. The good news though is that most Android app developers are used to this, and for the most part, you're going to get 100% app compatibility with both phones. Even with the A3 Pro being stuck at Android 8.1 Oreo, it's not like you're going to have problems loading up certain apps. Facebook's going to work great, Twitter's going to work great, all those apps are going to work really well. And it's not like you're going to run into any issues from different apps saying that they do not support Android 8.1 Oreo, because the truth is that there's still a ton of phones on 8.1 Oreo, and app developers are still making sure that their apps are compatible with this version of Android. So I'm sure with the A3 Pro, you're at least going to get like 2 years of compatibility with the various apps in the Android ecosystem before running into any issues at all. So that's pretty good in my opinion. Now that we've compared the specifications of these two devices, let's compare the hardware. Now, we already talked a lot about the hardware on the front here, so I'm not going to really talk about it more, but essentially we get a very thin notch with the Umidigi A5 Pro, and on the A3 Pro we get this super wide notch. Then we get 1080p with the A5 Pro and 720p with the A3 Pro. And we get a larger 6.3-inch display with the A5 Pro versus a smaller 5.7-inch display with the A3 Pro. Overall, the size of the A3 Pro is definitely smaller than the A5 Pro as well. Now, both devices have a nice metal band running around them, which is great to see. That's definitely a nice material that you typically don't see in phones in this price range. Now, on the left side, both phones have the slot for the microSD card and SIM card. Then on the right side, they both have the volume rocker and power button. Then on the top side, there is nothing on both devices. On the bottom of the two devices, we have a 3.5mm headphone jack, we have a microphone, we have a micro USB port, and we have the speaker. So yes, both phones do have a micro USB port. I know a lot of people have complained so far about the A5 Pro having one, even though it is a very new device here in 2019. But the truth is that they have to cut corners somewhere, and you can't get everything for such a low price tag. So I don't think it's terrible that there's a micro USB port with the A5 Pro, but I definitely would have preferred to see USB-C. Now on the back side of these two phones, of course, we have the color difference here with crystal blue in the A5 Pro and gold on the A3 Pro. We also have the different camera modules here. We have flashes on both devices, and we have fingerprint sensors. I definitely think that the A5 Pro looks a lot more exciting on the back than the A3 Pro. So overall, I definitely think the A5 Pro is the more appealing design of the two. Now that we've done a comparison of the hardware, let's do a speed test comparison. So we'll start out with pulling up the camera. So 1, 2, 3, go. And it was definitely faster on the A5 Pro. Let's pull up Google Chrome. 1, 2, 3, go. And that was faster on the A5 Pro. Let's go to yahoo.com. 1, 2, 3, go. Much faster on the A5 Pro as well. Let's go to engadget.com. 1, 2, 3, go. Way faster on the A5 Pro as well. We'll do a scrolling test in a second here. Now, the A5 Pro has already loaded the whole website, so we'll scroll here. And you can see that scrolling is pretty smooth, not bad. And on the A3 Pro, scrolling is not quite as smooth. You can see it's actually stuck now, up, and it went down to the bottom. So definitely not as smooth on the A3 Pro. So that is a bit unfortunate to see. Let's go to this link. 1, 2, 3, go. And that was way faster on the A5 Pro as well. So by doing this comparison, we've definitely learned a lot so far about these two devices and how they stack up compared to each other. I think it's very clear that the Umidigi A5 Pro is better than the A3 Pro in literally every way, unless for some reason you want a smaller phone. There is of course a small price difference between these two phones, but I think definitely paying the extra money is worth it for the A5 Pro over the A3 Pro. So overall, the A5 Pro is the better device of the two. Let me know if you disagree or if you agree in the comment section below. But again, I can't think of a way that this phone is better than this phone. That being said, if you own a Umidigi A3 Pro and you're watching this video, don't let your feelings get hurt. It's still a very decent phone, and I've actually compared this to other phones in the past where I've concluded that this is the better option. So it's definitely a good phone on its own, but compared to the A5 Pro, I think we have a new leader in this price category. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know in the comment section below. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to buy either of these two devices, then take a look in the video description. Like I mentioned before, it seems like sometimes Umidigi has trouble keeping these in stock. So if you see them available on Amazon, you should just go ahead right away and order. But this is Kevin here. This is the Umidigi A5 Pro and this is the Umidigi A3 Pro, and I will see you in the next video.